Hello and welcome to this special series of episodes called 29 Days of Magic. During Black History Month, the month of February, I'll be interviewing a Black woman a day who's from business and entrepreneurship. You name it, I'm going to have a chat with her. The idea for this is to show off the amazingness of Black women throughout various industries. I hope you take a listen, like, share, review, and be inspired by these incredible stories. Take a listen. Hello, and welcome to this week's episode of the Reset Podcast. I'm your host, Lauren Munoz, CEO of the experience agency D-Flash. Each week, I bring on a different business leader who's doing some game-changing work. And, as we look at the changing media landscape, it's so important to have voices that reflect the diversity that is our country. And that's why I am so excited to have Judith Jacques, who's the founder of Black Women in Media, on this show. We'll talk about her amazing awards gala that she puts together in conference. Full disclosure, I was honored to be a part of it this past year in 2020, and how they switched from live to virtual and all the things that came around with that. It's going to be a great conversation. Take a listen. Hey, Judith.
Hi, Laura. Thank you so much for having me.
Sure, great to have you. So we're kicking off into 2021, and even though it's a brand new year, the podcast stays the same, and the first question always stays the same. So, Judith, what was your first job?
My first job was when I was 16, and I worked at Liquidators, which is similar to it's like a downsized Walmart.
Wait, where did you grow up?
Westbury.
Oh, okay. So how have we not met?
we probably was crossing each other's paths like every single day.
Pretty much. I mean, Natty Ho's was my favorite place.
What?
Are you kidding me? I grew up in Hempstead.
No way.
Yes.
Literally,
I used to mental health every Saturday with my dad. We would go because you get the limes for like $1 for $1. And get those peripheral cookies that came in the big boxes and the Johnson
soap. Oh my God.
Yes.
Sure we're not related?
Are you Jamaican?
No. I'm Haitian. Close enough.
Close enough. Yeah. You're very near on the Caribbean. Oh, yes. Wow. So you were national host. Like, oh my gosh. What did you do? Were you on the first floor or second floor or in the basement?
I was on the ground floor. I was a cashier.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
And oh my gosh, working there must have been a nightmare. I mean, it was really
It was, because the I believe it was franchise owned. So every Liquidators had its, own functionality and how they, I guess ran things, and they didn't really have a notated system. So you kind of just roll with the punches and figure things out and so on. But, at 16, I really did appreciate being able to get my own paycheck, and I felt grown. So it was exciting, but also extremely taxing at the same time.
Oh my gosh. Like, yeah, I just remember that. I mean, I literally went there every Saturday as a kid. I think I actually learned how to parallel park in their parking lot at some point.
Oh my God, their parking lot was just a lot. That was a lot. That was a lot. Yes.
Oh, wow. Yeah. I mean, you definitely had to learn how to deal with all kinds of crazy people.
Yeah.
It was funny. Like, that was like, it's interesting because like that location was a really interesting slice of Long Island, because it brought together all these different constituencies of people that I don't think sometimes people knew about Long Island, because it sounds like you were there in like the 90s and early aughts. And like that was, Long Island was actually diverse back then.
It was. And Liquidators, I feel like was like the melting pot.
Totally.
How our different communities, the Latinx communities, the Caribbean communities, the African communities, the Black American communities, and even some white patrons as well. So you were able to see the different facets of what Long Island represented and actually represents. So yeah, you're absolutely right. I saw people from all walks of life every week, and yeah, it was truly interesting. It was.
I remember my dad would go, he was a fan of carbolic soap, that red, super strong, smelly ass soap.
Oh
And
my
I'd have to
God.
go, that Pear soap and Johnson soap were the thing, and Johnson's baby lotion, as any good Jamaican child knows. The things you had to. Yeah, I think when I got my driver's license, I like that was the first place I drove to like go get something. And oh my gosh,
Yeah.
wow. Like, and
Yeah.
all Christmas ornaments. Oh, wow. Okay, the world is like again, I do not know who we've never met before, but okay. Sounds like we're around the same age too.
Yeah.
Um, okay, so we go from liquidators to now. What was that journey like?
Well, so after graduating high school, I went to St. John's University where I double majored in business development. I'm sorry, I double majored in business development as well as communications, which was the first communications program at St. John's. So I was really excited about it. And, to be quite honest, with my Caribbean background, my parents weren't quite fond of my focuses at all, mainly because
Surprise, surprise.
I mainly because they wanted me to be, either a doctor or they wanted me to either be a doctor or a lawyer or, something within the medical or, law and politics field. And I decided against it. I always felt that, I was a great communicator. So let me just find something in which, would be able, I was always talkative. That was always something that, my teachers always said while I was growing up and so on. So I didn't know if I wanted to be a journalist or if I wanted to be a publicist or, something of that like, but I know I wanted to be in the media. And, I went full throttle and that major communications and so on. Being the fact that it was the first program, there was so many opportunities at St. John's in which we did a lot of internships. So by my second semester in my sophomore year, they already had internships that were available to us. So I didn't do it the second semester, but the summer there were internships that were available. So going into my junior year, I began the internships, and up until I graduated, it was always the same thing. I was always interning or volunteering at these firms, whether it was an agency, a marketing agency, a public relations firm, an events firm that catered to, like celebrity experiences and things of that like. I was always the only Black person or Black woman in the room. And it was an eye opener because I felt that I worked twice and even sometimes three times as hard as, my colleagues and my coworkers and things of that like. And I was really just trying to, get the ropes of things and really create a name for myself. And of course, career advancement, because that's the goal. So every single year, every single experience, I'm thinking that I would be rewarded, maybe not with a permanent position, but with some sort of recognition. And up until I graduated, it was always the same thing. It was, we don't feel like you fit into company culture, or we don't feel that we feel like you have so much more to offer and we can't offer that to you, or we weren't certain that you would be interested in this opportunity or set opportunity that was open. And I constantly watch people who didn't look like me get the recognition or the career advancement opportunities, and the advancements and things of that like. And it was just an eye opener for me of how the experiences and the microaggressions and the biases that Black women specifically face in this field. So I then decided, because I had already created an events firm. So after I got my bachelor's, I decided to turn my firm into a communications firm, which still provided events, but we no longer did like private events, but we focused on nonprofit and, nonprofit and, corporate events, excuse me. And those were our focuses then. And we started focusing on small businesses, specifically Black-owned businesses. So I started providing services such as business development, which was still, along the field of my focus, and, just representing underrepresented companies. So we pretty much focused on that. And I decided that I didn't want to really go into any of these companies, which I longed to be a part of, and just go through that same experience that I experienced within the past 2.5 years. So I say this to say that that's really what led my career. And, my firm grew, and I started representing larger companies. I started representing individuals who were in the political hemisphere, as well as nonprofits, a lot of nonprofits, helping them with their startup and helping them, just creating their teams and helping them with their vision and their brands and so on, and creating experiences that would then help them generate resources in order to, get their message out there and so on and so forth. So in 2012, I created BLACKSTREET, which is the umbrella company of the organization which I created, the subsidiaries which I created after. And it really started as a website, and we would just particularly focus on representing Black professionals within all industries, because the number one thing is we wanted to debunk this stereotype that Black wealth was only associated with entertainment and in sports like athletics and things of that. Like, I wanted to show our community as well as outside communities that we definitely contributed so much more to the world, to the economy, and just in many different facets. So we would feature doctors, lawyers, teachers, DJs, dancers, artists, models, and so on and so forth, and just show that, we're great contributors. So under BLACKSTREET, I created Black Celebration Awards, which basically honored and Black men and women within almost every industry. And then there was Black Culinary Expo, which pretty much is just a celebration of our cuisine, the arts, and things of that like. And of course, Black women in media, because that has always been and will always be a passion of mine. And that's pretty much it. That's how I've gotten to where I am now. All of those subsidiaries and those that we'll be creating in the near future. The goal is to create a space where we can celebrate who we are and celebrate each other, empower those to come, and honor and recognize those who have paved the way and are pioneers. So that's pretty much it. Sorry for the long-winded answer.
No worries. Well, that's a whole lot. But it's important, and I think it's actually really impactful that you could have picked whatever you wanted to do, but you thought it was really important to honor us. And I think that's something that is so important. I think oftentimes we think about the fact that people don't get their flowers until they've passed,
right,
or when they're much older. Right. And I look at other industries and how the advertising industry is so self-congratulatory. Like every year you can win a Cannes Lion, you can win a Clio. If it's film industry, you can win an Emmy, you can create a Creative Arts Emmy, you can win an Oscar, you can win a Screen Actors Guild. And I think it's so very important that as we rise, we take a moment to pat ourselves in the back. I think our joy is always an act of resistance. And so the moment we're able to be around and celebrate each other, we have to do that. Right. Because otherwise, what are we doing all this for? We have to celebrate the greatness that we do. So I think it's awesome that you took that route. Now, I'm betting that along the way, it was pretty challenging to even get all this up and running and off the ground. Right. Tell me about a time when you were like, this is crazy, I can't do this. And then you made it through.
Oh, that's every day. But
you're like Tuesday.
Right. like you said, it's, you know, a lot of times we have these, well, I can use BLACKSTREET specifically because that is like my baby, and that's just really the compound of my work. And I find that Black platforms have a tougher time in achieving certain, you know, levels of success due to the lack of resources. You know, I've witnessed countless times, you know, other organizations or platforms, which I wouldn't say serve in mediocrity, but, you know, in terms of like branding and things of that like, and how they're marketing to their audience and, you know, and so on. It's average at best, and they're still able to land, you know, large sponsorships and grants and things of that like. But, you know, with us, however, I find through my experience, it's harder to achieve those same successes. You know, you have to literally prove the impossible in order to be considered. And, you know, specific situations would be, you know, the events in which we curated. You know, prior to COVID, 99% of our events were uh, physical in, you know, New York City and so on. You know, they weren't virtual and things of that like. And as you well know, since you're a curator yourself, these events and, you know, with this event spaces, the travel costs and everything that is associated with events, the costs accumulate greatly. But I had to, you know, provide the resources through my own resources to make sure that these were a success. And a lot of times it would seem nearly impossible. Like it would be at the very last second that a miracle would happen at times in order for you know, these events and these experiences to be a success. And had the resources readily been available to the platform, then, you know, we wouldn't have struggled in that way, honestly. So, you know, that has been my experience.
Yeah, why am I not surprised? I've seen folks do way less, and here is $10 million to go build yourself an awards platform. I'm like, what? Like, I could tell you stories offline, but oh, girl,
Yes.
like, we're like, are you for real? Okay,
yeah.
like, but I think, you know, it's a testament to your resiliency that you're like, I'm just gonna make this happen. Come hell high water.
We're so excited to have Soho Works as the sponsor for the 29 Days of Magic campaign. You know, they're designed by Soho House, and they're workspaces to help creative thinkers, businesses small and large, connect, collaborate, and grow. And it's where I'm recording all the episodes of 29 Days of Magic. It's a safe, wonderful and collaborative experience. I'm currently in the Brooklyn location, but they have locations, one else in New York City in the Meatpacking District, one in LA, 5 in the UK, and they give you that kind of home away from home feeling with all the tools, technology, equipment to help you do your best work. Like I said, it's an amazing location, feels safe. I've been able to meet some really awesome people, which you haven't been able to do a lot because of the fact of COVID. So it's been a wonderful experience being able to record here and help build community. So if you want to find out more information about it, please go to sohoworks.com to get more information and tell them I sent you. And now back to the show.
So so you guys had to switch, obviously, because of COVID last year to go to 100% virtual. What was that like? And did you ever think maybe we'll skip this year?
Oh my gosh. So in the earlier parts of 2018, well, actually the early parts of 2019, I was offered a few contract positions with these large companies as, you know, their director of business development and sales and so on. So, which was not fairly new to me, but it was kind of like a shift and my attention and so on and what have you. But that was one of my biggest concerns. I never want anything to take me away from what I believe is my purpose, which in essence, I believe is BLACKSTREET and, you know, essentially Black women in media. So we just started going down to the drawing board right then and there. Specifically November 2019, I remember just creating, a plan for Black women in media, because I didn't feel that the platform was reaching the masses and the capacity that I wanted it to. We started a certain way, which I was very satisfied with, but then we just had to grow larger, I felt. So, we started building this plan. We had, we revamped our brand. We, did so many changes, website, everything. And then, of course, we were planning for the physical conference and awards. But when I started watching the news, which ironically, I don't necessarily do much of, admittedly, prior to COVID, I didn't do much of, but I started seeing this wave of this virus and, overseas, specifically in China, and then Europe and so on. So by January of 2020, I started to speak to my team and saying, what if this were to come here? We would have a dilemma. So I feel like being in the hospitality industry, specifically events, you kind of see the, you kind of get like this first wave of how things are affected by the world we live in and things that, surround us and things of that like. So with that being said, even in the company that I was working with at that time, we had we were responsible for Global Citizen, HBO Upfront. So we had large festivals as well, which we were afraid that was going to be canceled. And I remember, even stating that to the CEO, I believe these events are going to be canceled. We're gathering, tens of thousands of people, and there's this deadly virus that, it's inevitable it's going to cross the seas. So a lot of people said, no, that's not true. It's, even if it gets here, it'll be under control. Little did we know. But in March is when we were scheduled, in May, we had intended for our conference and awards to be in May. Right then and there, in January, I said, end of January, early February, I told my team, you know what, we're going to have to move this event to the fall. And we should start considering for it to be, for it to be virtual. And everyone was like, no, by the fall, even if it does come over, it's not going to be, it's not going to affect it. And I'm happy that I stuck to, and that's another thing, just keeping to your instincts and paying attention to them. And I'm happy that I did, because I literally just held on to my guns, and I didn't listen to, other people's concerns, because of course this is new for everyone. So I know that was one of the biggest concerns. How are we going to cater to thousands of people on a virtual scale? And we've never done it before. So I said, this is the time for us to do a lot of research. And of course, there were so many things in between, but the number one thing that we did was the research. And I believe that's what prepared us to create this experience, because through the month, because I think we went, full lockdown was end of March, early April, if I'm not mistaken, where everyone was mandated to be at home. And I remember how that affected us greatly, because I saw large companies, notable brands have virtual experiences, and it didn't go so well, because again, this was a new space for almost everyone. So we learned from other people's mistakes. We learned from, what was trendy. We did a lot of research, and it ultimately led to the conference and awards. And of course, the biggest thing is, how do you, keep the engagement or the experience and allow it to be impactful in the same capacity that it has been in previous years. And that's one of the focuses that, mainly my team and I focused on. How can we create an experience where people walk away feeling empowered and they feel uplifted, especially in the times that we were in? And I did, in many occasions, just not want to do it. But I feel that as Black women, we put these pressures on ourselves. Specifically, like I mentioned this to you earlier, when I lost my mom in May 28th, 2018, 2020. And it was, I think that if ever someone had a reason to cancel something, that probably would have been it. But I just felt that I couldn't let our community down, because a lot of people were looking forward to it. And it did keep my mind busy at the moment, and not really focus on grief as much. So COVID was such a learning experience. And ironically, our theme last year was pivot, which we do on a normal basis anyway. So that's it.
You made it happen, and it was beautiful.
Yeah.
I'm like, and you can't go wrong with that.
Thank you.
So, and obviously 2020 was such a trying year for you, and hella stressful. And now we're into a new year. What in the world are you doing for self-care?
So, in the beginning, I slept a lot. Sleep does help, because when, I was running on fumes, and I realized that the reason why I was so exhausted and so, just going through it, I decided that I'm going to dedicate some time to sleep, to actually allow my body to rest, my body, my mind, everything to rest. And I didn't give myself that permission, because I am a mom, I'm a wife, and I'm trying to build this large platform, and I'm catering to all these other facets, but not myself. So I was being burnt out like fairly quickly. So the first thing was sleep. Second thing is really finding a moment to meditate. And I know that's probably, a lot of people are like, going into that now, and it probably sounds cliche and things of that like, but meditation, just even if it's just 5 minutes of just silence, and just really basking in the awe of me being able to breathe. I'm still here, despite the challenges that I've been faced with, and the heartbreak and the brokenness. I'm still here. My children are still here. My husband's still here. We have so much that so many people don't have or have lost. So that in itself, a spirit of gratitude and thankfulness changed my perception, even through the pain, because you're still going through it, but I wasn't in this hole anymore, where I felt sorry for myself and I was so broken. The meditation and prayer, which is huge. So, whether or not you believe in the construct of religion, or, things of that like, but I think thinking of a higher being and knowing that you're not always in control of your circumstance, and that there's a divine purpose for you, is comforting. And that in itself, it has built me in so many ways, and my confidence in myself, and as well as just my confidence in where I'm gearing towards in the near future. And lastly, a good spa day. A great,
yes.
Yes. Just even if it's just getting your hair done and your nails done, because I feel brand new when I get my hair done and my nails are done, and I just take some time for myself. It's a world of difference, because it makes a world of difference, because you're taking care of yourself, and your outwardly appearance, it plays a role in how you feel on the inside. So I make note at least once a week to do that. And when it comes to, the meditation and prayer and so on, that's on a daily basis. The sleep, I was doing much better before, but, now because of certain circumstances, with expecting and so on, I'm not sleeping as much as I should, but, I do make a mental note to rest, even if it's not sleeping, but I'm resting and I'm taking time to rest. So those are the top 3 things that I believe would help us greatly, and has helped me greatly.
those are so key. It's like, I mean, I felt like over this holiday weekend, I actually got the whole week, I got time to sleep. I was falling asleep so early every night, and I'm like, I wonder what this means. I was really friggin' tired, even though I hadn't been on a plane in 10 months. And I was accustomed to being on
Wow.
a plane every other month for the last 9 years. But I was
Wow.
just exhausted from all of this. And cosign on the spa. Um, I have I have the perfect spa for you called the Miraval in the Berkshires. And when you're ready, I got the hookup for you.
Oh, tell me. Send it
It
over.
is glorious. It is so good. I mean, basically, you sleep on a cloud. The beds are made of clouds. I'm convinced that they literally pump in air from the clouds into these beds, because nothing can be that fluffy goodness and be that just enveloping you in goodness and you fall asleep in seconds.
Wow.
All the massages are on point. They do this thing called this neuromuscular massage, where it's like these little micro tiny movements. And you're
Yeah.
like, this guy's not really doing much. And then you get up and you're like, I'm a foot taller. How'd that happen? It's so good. So don't worry. I got when you are ready, I got the hookup for you.
Yes.
Um, it's such a dope place, and it was one of those things. That's like, yes, you should do this for yourself, Laura, because you need it. And
Yes.
so I highly recommend. And lastly, do you have a give and or an ask of the audience?
Well, the give, I always try to uplift, anyone that I come across, and just let them know that, this, if anyone who is listening at this moment, feels that they are in the worst situation at this very moment, you have to understand that you are designed to overcome it. There is nothing that can literally completely break you that you are not built to overcome. The most difficult moments are necessary, unfortunately, because they allow you to become stronger. And, strength comes through the pursuit and the push through the most difficult situations. So that's my give. And, my ask is, I hope everyone just takes note and finds some sort of, level of self-care. We've gone through what I believe in, a general, and I think everyone, the 2020, they've experienced some sort of heartbreak or difficulty. And as a general group of people, we all can just use some time to really take care of ourselves. So, never forget that. Those are my gives and asks.
Thanks for a sermon, Judith. I can't say anything more. Thank you so very much.
No, thank
That's
you for
awesome.
having me.
It was such a delight. I mean, fellow Long Island girl, we must chat some more about this.
Yeah.
We'll put all the details in the show notes so folks can find out and follow along on your incredible journey and all the great things that you do. And it's been such a delight. Thank you so very much for joining me today.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me.
Awesome. And that is our show.